Most traders do not lose on news days because news is random. They lose because they treat news like a casino. That's it. They see the volatility, they see the big candles, they see price moving so fast, and they think that means opportunity. But in reality, this right here is not a clean trading opportunity. It is a risk event. Okay, so a lot of times when a high impact news release, be it NFP or FOMC or CPI, right? What tends to happen is that price tends to either move up or down by 100 pips. Like for example, in this case, before the news comes out, price tends to consolidate in a tight range just like this, where there's a lot of uncertainty in the market as the market prepares for the upcoming release of the news itself, right? So this is where price tends to be a little bit choppy right here. And a lot of time, a lot of retail traders, what they do is that they just wait for the news to come out, and then when price starts going down, they immediately start entering for a sell. And then sometimes it works out, and if it works out, good job for you. Sometimes it doesn't work out, right? Price starts going up, and sometimes what can even happen is that price comes down and then goes up straight away by 100 pips, causing you to get stopped out, causing you to get trapped in this manipulation. All right? That's what tends to happen. When major news drops, the spreads will widen, liquidity will start disappearing, and price can spike both ways. That's like the danger of trading news. The market might sweep both swipes, right? Might sweep sell side liquidity and buy side liquidity, and then later on, then price will actually move in a particular direction. Which is why my best advice for people who want to trade news is to just don't trade news. All right, that's it. Just don't. Okay, just don't. I've learned this the hard way. I've lost so much money trying to trade news in my first year of trading. And the thing is, yes, you might make some money here and there, right? But it's not sustainable. And if you do make money from trading news, it's a bad thing because you pretty much just reinforce the behavior of trading news. And then you tend to repeat what you got rewarded for in the past. So now you're addicted to trading news. And next time your luck runs out, market manipulation takes place, and you lose a lot of money. And then now you get addicted to the pain of losing money trading the news. And then now you continue trading the news. And then next thing you know, you blow your account. Right? So please, for the love of God, do not try to trade news because it is honestly just a gamble. Yes, there are certain strategies out there like, oh my God, what if I just place like a buy stop order right here and then like a sell stop order right here, and then whatever direction price, go to, I'm going to get triggered into that trade. All of this bullshit trade, but end of the day, trading the news is just gamble. All right. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching this. Nah, just kidding. But yeah, I believe that your job as a trader is to understand the news. Okay, you still need to understand news because news is why price move the way it move. Technicals show you how price move. News tells you why price move. So you don't need to be some macro expert. You don't need to have a PhD in economics. You don't need to memorize every economic release. You don't need to try to predict the headline. Your job is simply to know what the news are and where the landmines are. All right, so it's like when the news are occurring, and then you can avoid trading those times itself. And once again, if you ignore fundamentals, what tends to happen is that you might get caught in a move that makes no sense through the lens of a setup alone. What I basically mean by that is that technical wise, like right now, if we are looking at this price section over here, price is obviously bullish, right? Price is obviously bullish. We've got a market shift over here. Price is creating higher highs, higher lows, and you might be tempted to look for a long position somewhere around here. Or you might have already been in a long position somewhere around here and you place your stop loss below these lows right here. So your technical trade idea, your technical analysis is telling you that price is going to go up, right? What can possibly go wrong, right? And then later on at around 8:30 p.m. Singapore time, non-farm payroll comes out and it stopped you out, just like this. You can see the trend direction of the market just reverse 180 just because of a news, just because the fundamentals of GU has changed. So if you were not aware of the news, if you were not aware that there's news at 8:30 p.m., then guess what? You will have been stopped out and you will have no idea why you got stopped out. So it's important for you to understand what this news is, right? Like what does non-farm payroll means, right? What does CPI actually means? Understand the definition of each one of these news and how it affect price, and then also understand the time in which those news tends to appear, right? The date and time, and then try to avoid those period itself, which is what we're going to go through in the next part itself. Like I said, the goal with high impact news is not to gamble on the release of the news itself. It's to know when the risk is getting elevated, when slippage is increasing, when the liquidity is getting lesser, how to protect your capital, and avoid getting trapped by the volatility you were never prepared for in the first place. Avoid getting trapped in this market manipulation. So that should be your mindset when you're approaching news. Right, so in the next section, in the next segment of this video, I'm going to show you how to handle all of that inside Edgeflow using the economic calendar. So you can actually see the landmines before you step on them. Alright, so with that being said, let me show you how to use the economic calendar inside Edgeflow to filter what matters, plan around high impact releases, and avoid treating news like a gambling event. So on Edgeflow, you can find the news and economic calendar feature here just by clicking news. And this is where you will be able to see all the news that is coming out for the day, for tomorrow, for next week, for next month, this month, so on and so forth, right? This is literally all the news that is available right now in the market. And this is really like a daily landmine map, right? This is where you want to see, okay, when are the high impact news coming out? And then this is where I might want to trade around it. I might want to avoid trading it completely. This is where you can scan for news that is related to the currencies on your watch list, right? You can just filter it to like the currencies that's on your watch list right here. You can even filter it by impact level, right? So if you only want to see high impact news, it will only show you high impact news, so on and so forth. You can even filter it by categories right here. When you come in here, the first thing you must do is to really just go and filter it by like the currencies that you want to be trading. Right, the currencies that you're already trading on your watch list, right? So whether that's Euro, USD, GP, JPY, whatever. So in this case, let's say I'm trading Euro USD and I'm trading GP USD, I'm trading GP JPY as well, and I'm also trading the Canadian dollar, right? This is where I'll just select this currency pairs. So I only look at the high impact news that is related to this currency pairs, right? Anything outside of those are just noise. And then this is where, like I said, you just want to focus on the high impact news. All right, so you can see this is the time that is at right now is around like 2:13 a.m. UTC right now. And then the next news that is coming out is the Japanese yen news or the 3-month bill auction, but it's like a low impact news, so it's kind of like irrelevant. Yeah, but like this is where you can kind of know, all right, cool. This is where I'm at, and these are the news that is coming out next, and these are the news that has already passed. Right, and I only want to focus on the high impact news that is relevant to my watch list. Right, so maybe I can just filter it out. And then this is where I can just see, okay, at this time, at 7 a.m. later on, retail sales is going to come out for GP. At 1:30 p.m. later on, personal income is going to come out for USD. Right, like I said, there's no point reading every single low impact, medium impact news on here. You just want to focus on the high impact news. And the cool part about Edgeflow is that we also have a calendar view. And once again, I don't know why there's no other news provider that does this, right? But I was like, we need this feature because this is something that Forex traders like to look at, is to just know exactly on the day that they are trading, which is there going to be any high impact news, right? So at a first glance, you can see, okay, today is there high impact news. If there's a red outline just like this, that means there's a high impact news on the day. If there isn't, that means there's no high impact news. And then based on this, you can also find out, okay, on this day itself, how many high impact news are there and how many medium impact news, how many low impact news are there going to be happening on the day itself, right? So once again, when you have this calendar view, this allow you to see at a high level which days are loaded with high impact news. This helps you plan ahead and be extra cautious. Like for example, if I see tomorrow is going to be like a red folder, then this is where I will know, okay, tomorrow there's going to be high impact news. Let me go and find out what time are the high impact news coming out. And then maybe I want to be trading around those times itself. Or another example is if you are trading a prop firm that doesn't allow you to hold positions through certain news events, this makes it obvious which days you need to manage your risk title, which days you need to close your positions early before the news come out, which days you could like just trade around the news itself, right? So this is a very cool feature that we have, the calendar view here. Now, the thing about trading news is that if you have any experience trading news, you will know that news candles are designed to spike both sides, right? So a lot of times when the high impact news comes out, price goes up by 100 pips and then later on price comes down by another 100 pips because of market manipulation. Which also means that if you don't have a system that is specifically tested for news, you shouldn't be trading news at all, right? Because remember, we are not here to get lucky. We are not here to gamble. You trading the news without understanding the news that's going to come out, it's like you trying to get a lottery ticket and praying that you are going to be winning the lottery, okay? We are here to get consistent. We are not here to get lucky. And here's a huge part when it comes to discipline that we have inside Edgeflow, right? This news feature here, what we can give you is the ability to block trading when there's a high impact news. So if you click on this button right here, the block trading settings, this is where you can turn on the toggle on the ability to block trading for high impact news in your watch list. Right, so it's pretty much just going to be scanning the currency pairs that you have on your watch list, and it's going to be blocking trading when there's a high impact news that is related on to the currency pairs on your watch list, if you turn this on. Okay, so once again, this means at any point of time, if there's a red news event that affects the currency pairs that you're going to be trading, Edgeflow will literally stop you from entering trades during that window. And this is where you can set your block window. The default state is probably like 15 minutes, right? But you can set it to 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes. And then you can also set the block behavior, right? Whether you want it to block trading before the high impact news or after the high impact news, or block trading before and after the high impact news. Once again, completely up to you, right? I would recommend you to at least put it at 15 minutes before and after high impact news. Okay, and then once done, you can just hit save. When you do this, what happens is that it prevents you from getting wiped out, right? It prevents you from, getting trapped in unpredictable move in the market. It prevents you from getting into the insane volatility that tends to happen when high impact news come out, which means that you don't enter right before the spread start widening and liquidity start disappearing. You don't get wicked out from slippage and random volatility, and you don't rage click a revenge trade after you get tagged into the trade itself. The key point here is this ability to block trading before and after high impact news. It's simply a mechanism for Edgeflow to protect you from impulse, protect you from getting trapped in move that you shouldn't be part of. Once again, it's not trying to make you trade more, it's trying to keep you alive and disciplined so your edge can actually play out. Alright, so now let's talk about how to actually trade news. Okay, because there are simply just 3 ways that you can trade news. There's only 3 options. And for majority of the traders watching this, I would advise you to stick to option A, which is avoid it completely. Right? Doesn't matter whether you are a beginner, intermediate, or advanced trader, it's always some sort of gamble if you trade the news. Because what happens is that the news can come out saying that, okay, it's a good news, right? And good news means US dollar is probably going to go up. But then it can still go down because of market manipulation, right? That is where you hear the quote, which is quite renowned on Wall Street, which says, buy the rumor, sell the news, right? Buy the rumor, sell the news. Okay, it's the exact same thing right here, because a lot of times the news has already been factored in, right? Which means you tend to see the move happen before the actual news come out, right? So even though US dollar is good, but when the news comes out, US dollar actually start dumping. So lots of market manipulation right here. So for majority of the traders out there, I would just highly recommend you to just avoid it completely, which means you don't open new positions during that window where the news is coming out, like 15 minutes before and after news. And then after the news came out, you want to wait for the volatility to settle, maybe 30 minutes to 60 minutes after the high impact news comes out. Once the structure start becoming much more clearer, this is where you can continue trading. Okay, so option A, perfect, the best option for majority of the traders out there. Now option B, only trade if already in position. All right, so let's say you enter a trade, you enter for a buy on EURUSD 2 hours before a high impact news comes out. And during the high impact news coming out, price haven't hit your TP, price haven't hit your stop loss yet, so you have no choice but to actually hold the position past the news. If that's the case, what should you be doing? Well, you could reduce risk, right? Maybe you want to close a portion of the position before the news actually comes out. Or maybe you want to move your stop loss to break even. right? Once again, if rules allow you to do so, if the price action allows you to do so. And you just want to make sure that you don't widen stops emotionally, right? The last thing you should be doing is, before a high impact news comes out, you start like widening your stop loss because you don't know which direction price is going to go. Right? So if you're not already in the position, highly recommend you to stick to option A. Like I said, just avoid the high impact news release completely and just trade after it. And then next we got option C. Okay, option C is to trade post news only. If you are more of an advanced trader, more of an intermediate trader with some experience under the belt, you've been trading the news, you have been exposed to the volatility of the high impact news for a few years, for a few months, you kind of understand like what the price action will be like after a high impact news release, then this is where you can consider option C, which is trade after the high impact news release. Trade the price action after the high impact news release. Because what tends to happen is that when the high impact news gets released, this is where you get all of this unpredictable move, right? Price goes up, down, very dangerously. But after the high impact news comes out, this is where the market starts coming down. The market starts to update itself based on the new information that was presented during the high impact news. This is where the market starts becoming more rational. So what you want to do when you're choosing option C is to let the spike happen, right? Let the news event, comes out and become incredibly crazy. Let all the noise fade away, right? And then you want to wait for some form of liquidity sweep, some form of structure reclaiming itself, some form of structure shift, or even like price returning to your point of interest that you want to be entering the trade on. And then you can just execute your normal plan from there. Yeah, this is where you can just continue doing your technical analysis process, map out your charts, to determine where is the best price point that you want to enter the trade on. This is where you can just do your technicals. This is where it's safe to do that because the market has already taken into account the new information. So those are the three options. Like I said, for majority of traders out there, I would just recommend option A. It's just not worth it, right? It's just not worth to gamble here and there because your goal here is to last in a game long enough so you can actually win consistently. Your goal here is not to hit like one lucky jackpot and just stop trading for the rest of your life. No, it's to just make sure that you are consistent, just make sure that you focus on survival rather than, these big wins, this boom and bust cycle where you make a lot of money, you lose a lot of money, you make a lot of money, you lose a lot of money, which is quite simply just it's just unsustainable. Now, here's what not to do, right? So here's a little quick checklist right here. You shouldn't be placing a random market order because it feels bullish. You shouldn't be sizing up to make it worth it. You shouldn't move your stop loss wider because the spread is crazy. And most importantly, you shouldn't revenge trade if you get wicked out. Okay, the last thing you want to do is you are in a position before the high impact news release. You get stopped up because of the high impact news release and you start getting angry at the market. Now you start revenge trading. Now you start trying to make back the money that you have lost. Now you start trying to get back at the market. It's not worth it. Trust me. Been there, done that. Yeah, remember, you want to trade the reaction, not the headline. Okay, like if you're trading news, you want to trade the market's reaction to the news, not the news itself. Like I said earlier, the news can be good, but the currency that is related to the news can still start dumping because the market's reaction is all that matters. The market's reaction is what drives the price action of the market. It's the sentiment that actually drives price. It's not really like the fundamentals itself. Professionals don't need to trade every day, right? Remember that they don't wake up thinking, how can I force a trade today? They wake up thinking, how do I protect capital and wait for clean market conditions? Because like I said earlier, this game is not about thriving. Before you can think about thriving, you need to think about how to survive. Longevity is the name of the game. And high impact news is one of the fastest ways to donate money if you treat it like an entertainment. If you treat it like gambling, if you treat it like a casino. And that is why in Edgeflow, we help you remove temptation by baking your rules into the trading system so you're not relying on willpower when volatility spikes, right? That is what like this block trading function is for, right? Is to make sure that we prevent you from making stupid decisions, we prevent you from getting trapped in unfavorable market conditions. Last but not least, just remember that news isn't your edge. Your rules are. Use the economic calendar here to avoid the landmines. Let the volatility pass, let the noise pass, and then execute when conditions are normal again.